Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Wednesday morning. We market here at SpartanTrading.com. This is what we do Monday through Friday, as long as the market's open. And welcome to any of those joining us on our live YouTube stream. Fascinating setting up, things happening. Okay, so we've got this now. You know how we had targeted tech. Now we've got targeted regional banks going on. I discussed with you that I was in Wall and some of these other names. And I, as a disclosure, I did trim back half my Wall, FYI, on the pop this morning. This is really complicated. Okay, so we've got the Netflix Fandango going on right now. There's all kinds of things that are just a conundrum. Bonds continue to sell off, reallocation. Do not forget it is OpX. A lot of stuff we are seeing is tied to OpX. The options expiration happens every month, third Friday of the month. And then we got next week, we've got a lot of the big boys coming out, big boys, big girls. All right. Yesterday, what happened here? Nothing really big. The API had a draw. The consensus was really nothing there. Crude selling off, bonds selling off, daddy gas. So commodities are selling off right now. Overseas in Japan, better, worse. Okay, better. All right, so we had the inflation out of the UK. That's pretty sticky, right? 10.1 versus 10.2. The core went up. PPI, a little better, worse, right? So you get the gist here. Auctions, 2.51, you can see that. And then we had the mortgage back. There was applications, I guess, was really bad. Really bad, right? You can see here, minus 8, almost 10%, 8.8% down. And then we got our EIA, we got Canada has your PPI, we'll keep an eye on that as well. Schnabel is speaking. What else do we have? If that has beige book, this does matter. Okay, so why does it matter? It basically gives us an insight into the different regions as to what their economies look like, right? We know that there's going to be trouble out of the San Fran Fed, right? We know that. I want to see what's going to happen, what they're going to say out of the Dallas Fed, the Atlanta Fed. These are the areas that I look at because that's where they're both. I mean, look, manufacturing in the United States isn't in the Northeast, okay? It's in the South, Southwest, and then West. You know, this is where it is. So we have to keep an eye on that. And this could move, I would suspect it would be negative, okay, in terms of lower yields, because I would expect this to be very soft. But if it isn't, then we have more out of Japan, yada, yada, yada. And then we have small Philly Fed. Nobody gives a fuck. Yeah. But anyways, so Waller speaking, right? Debbie Downer Waller, see what he can do for us Bowman, so we have more Fed heads. So it's earnings season, right? So this is what it looks like. So we had Netflix, ASML. ASML beat, but a little bit of a wall of worry there, and that's why we saw Morgan Stanley, but it sold off. And I mean, you get the idea of what's going on right now. ISOG, shout out to Twins. I didn't see you running in West Hartford, so in our town, naked. So I'm assuming you're in Florida. Anyways, we'll see. Okay, and then we have Tesla. Obviously, this afternoon is going to be fascinating. I want to see with Alcoa, a lot of these Zions, Bancorp, you know. So then we have Taiwan. So we got some juicy stuff, and I love it. I love earnings season, right? All right, so ASML did guide higher, but there's always that but, right? We'll see. So Morgan Stanley, pop, drop. I don't know. We'll see how these things get bought up or not, right? I mean, that's pretty much the question of the day, right? So where's 18th? There you go. Okay. So here's this, and then let's look at the time, and we'll go in the afternoon, right? So what I'm finding is, to be honest with you, some of these are like, some of them are like 50-50 surprises, negative and positive. But right now, a little bit of this week has been tilted to the downside in terms of surprises, negative surprises. But those are, look, it's the same thing since the beginning of time, okay? If Tesla misses, they will get punished simply because they did not pre-announce. Okay, we're in that strategy narrative once again, okay? And it's important that we figure that out real fast, right? And I think that we have to see what the cost cutting looks like. You know the drill. But I'll be honest with you. I did grab a little bit. I mean, how can I not? I did grab a little bit of Netflix off the low. Not a lot, just a little. Added it to my position. I thought anything below, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean, I grabbed it sub 300. How's that sound? And it was like, I had to work fast on that one. We'll see. Okay, so, well, let's actually look at today. So the analysts are more bearish than bullish, right? And I think what we're seeing right now is it's all about earnings. This still worries me. And I talk about this ad nauseum because it still worries me. But we're starting to see some movement going on the 40-75 to 500, right? And then up here, okay? This is ridiculous to expect this type of rate cuts into the end of the year unless we go into a deep recession. It just makes absolutely positively no sense. They're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. So there you go. So we're starting to get back to some sort of sense of reality. I'm just, this was a no-brainer for me. It's like that can't stand. Okay, I don't care, to be honest with you, what anyone thinks. But when people have to borrow, take out a loan to buy their groceries, I am sorry. Okay, that tells you where we are. Okay, I know somebody, when I was in Vegas, they were telling me that their wife was assaulted in a grocery store. They didn't want their wallet. They didn't want her anything. All they wanted was her groceries. Okay. Now, I'm sure she would have given them to him if he had asked. He should have said please and thank you, but he didn't. But he had 3 little kids, okay, that were with him. Okay. So I gotta say, I mean, this is something we have to start talking about, even from a moral and ethical standpoint. And you know me, I have a very strong moral and ethical compass, right? All right, and it does matter. Why? Disposable income. If you're borrowing to buy groceries, you're not going to buy other stuff. And there's a huge disparity going on between those who have and those who have not. And this is apolitical. This is humanity, okay? All right, what do we got? Time decay, so Chato is talking about, yeah. And this is why I tell you a lot of these things I go out. You see that I go out farther on these, tend to go out farther, a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. Normally a month, but you can see here in terms of time decay what happens. Either right or wrong, right? Okay. Oh boy, 270. Oh, well, you know that. You know what they're talking about. Okay, so why does this matter? And I was very adamant about this. They would have won this lawsuit, okay? Because somewhere along the line, You can't do this. Blatantly misrepresent data, okay? This is the largest payout, and you know what I'm talking about, Fox News, ever of a media company, okay, to in a lawsuit like this, okay? They were willing because they didn't want stuff coming out during the trial. And the company said, okay, fine, whatever, we'll take it. You know, so $87 million, whatever. It matters, okay? And this is not a political statement. This is a truth statement. This is why I no longer watch anything, because I do not know whether it's Republican-based, bias, red, blue, whatever, middle, purple, I don't care. I don't know what the truth is anymore. And I have to figure that out for myself, because a lot of stuff that's stated is just, you know, sound bites. Okay. And it does matter, because this will, I'm believing this will bring in some rails in terms of when we go into the political nightmare of the next election cycle. I don't know. Sweden Defense, welcome to join NATO. God bless you. Welcome. Right? Oh boy. A lot of stuff, like I say, OPEX, so we'll see how that plays out. So we're at the pivot point right now, okay, where this would be another piece of the puzzle in terms of a recession. Right now, we're right here, all right? Okay, it has held in the past, you see right here, right? But this is the first time we've been here. There's only 3 times we've been here before. .com bubble, financial crisis, in 2020 COVID. Let's see if it happens. I don't know. Goldman Sachs was because it took a pull back. Yeah, sorry, so sad. Will remain in pre-trial detention. Well, God bless, at least it's not at a gulag anywhere. Fox settled, we know about that. Chip giant TSMC pushes back on U.S. subsidy terms. That's interesting. House Speaker. Well, you know, dude, this is what's really funny is there's no, he's pushing this thing along, but he's got nothing on the table. I mean, nothing that his party can vote for. Mismanagement activities quite steadily. We know, well, that's no surprise. How iPhone things are locking out there, but I have no idea. Trips to Europe require more strategy this year. Cheap trips, yeah. It is. I mean, anyways, here we go. I have no idea, but God bless, I think. I don't know. Netflix is ending its DVD by mail. I didn't even know they still had it. I didn't know. Tesla shares drop as Musk cuts price. What the hell? Like I say, why don't you just lower your guidance, dude? Enough of this bullshit. I mean, seriously. Europe stock market slow as investors digest UK inflation data. Yeah, not what expected. Yada, yada, yada. SML, yada, yada. And that delays its pass switching. Yeah. What is this with Southwest lately? But this is not just Southwest, but the problem is, look, if you have connecting flights in major cities, there's no way. I mean, I learned this the first hand because I flew Breeze coming back, and it was coming out of Santa Barbara, California, and the pilot says this is what it looks like. Okay. McDowell's being changed this class, but you look okay. Bed Bath & Beyond stores as traders bet on bankruptcy versus survival. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tesla cut. Yeah. What? Okay. Going up when I don't know what to tell you. What do we got here? We've got this GPN, and this is an OPEX thing. I mean, yeah, this is a no data. I don't know what that is. I mean, it's at the money, it's a hedge, no doubt, but and then they just got an upgrade. I don't know, K-Web, I don't know. Netflix, someone bought 350 puts in the money. Okay. CT, I don't know. It's OPEX. Okay. Wall, Red Bush, LNT, GPN, top dog is ExxonMobil, sorry. 23% UBS. John's not a schlub. He's a 73%er, so we can't say anything like that. Not much going on today in terms of these analysts because we're in earnings season. So we can get only 3 downgrades, right? So we can get that going. There we go. Rivian. Sorry, Tom. See, this is what is so disingenuous. Statistically, it's a 50-50, right? Statistically, it should be 50-50. But this guy's only right 23% of the time. Why would you follow him? This is what I don't get. These analysts are just absolutely positively dysfunctional. I don't even have any 70+ percenters. Right? Initiations, neutral, buy, market perform, buy, Mobileye. I like Mobileye. I haven't been doing much, but Peloton, sector weight, overweight is Garmin, right? Overweight is GEHC, GE Healthcare. That's an interesting, anyways, outperform WMS. Let's go. Okay, seasonal. We got some new stuff on here. Synopsis, Train Technology, as well as TransDigm. Okay, that's starting this week. What do we got? The flight to safety and utility stocks reverse triggering a buy signal for the S&P 500. Okay, so this is that yin and yang thing. I don't know exactly what to tell you about this. The simple part is with bonds continue to sell off, it puts pressure on things, right? Okay. But going back to the 1950s when this happens, obviously it's bullish, but robustly bullish 1 year out. We've had a hell of a run up into earnings, okay? I think what's more important is this is going to be incredibly technical at this point in time. And you can understand why that would be, right? Why it would be so important that it'll be incredibly technical, okay? I have not gotten out of my, look, I've told you my narrative, why I want to be in consumer staples, right, as an extension. I told you why I want to be in healthcare as an extension. I just want a well-rounded portfolio right now. And, the targeted tech run-up was wonderful, but I think now it's time when you start to rejiggle your portfolio. All right, this is a big deal. And I actually, to be honest with you, this is bearish for the market. Now, hear me out on this one. Why? Okay, basically, this tells us that the market is so freaking ass complacent, okay, as far as they're concerned. There's not going to be any spikes, macro events, or anything like that. Going into earnings, okay, season, where it's not as clear-cut as could be, okay, how can you basically have no hedges on? And that's basically what this is telling you. The market is expecting blah. That's when bad things happen, okay? And I bought some more UVXY yesterday, got my average down nicely, okay, and it's up. I mean, this is just knowing how these levers work, okay? This means there's really no hedges going on, okay? So let's take a look here at the urge. Trader call buying, put buying. Okay, that's just for shits and giggles. This is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so this is sticky. Okay, this should be down here, but it's up here. Okay, and let's look at large trader call buying. This is really fascinating. Okay, so this tells me in the background. Now look at this. I mean, that's why I'm saying is this volatility collapse, I think it is notable and puts me on alert right now. I mean, that's just what I'm telling you right now. Okay. I don't know why they did this, but this is how they're presenting it now. So you can see, I mean, this is a reset, I mean, for the most part, but Ireland, Poland, right? And then junk line. Well, anyways, let's move on. Okay, what do we got? Bonds. Yield curve is really inverting some more, right? Bonds are up across the board, except and you got Hong Kong and Japan. All right. So I want to bring up our balance sheet. So this is on the weekly. You see nothing's going on here, but this is the one I want, is our balance sheet right here. Oh, okay. All right. So what's going on here? All right. Behind the scenes, they continue to provide support for the balance sheet. Okay, this is going up. Okay, that's liquidity. All right. If this pops out here, and this is a pivot, the reversion, you can see where the reversion to the mean is right here. This is the mean. Okay, this is notable. All right, so that tells me that in the background, they might, this is the disconnect between the double tightening, right? Between the Fed, the Fed doing, hiking rates and drawing down the balance sheet, which effectively got it to almost 5% with the balance sheet runoff. Don't forget, this is tightening. When you run off your balance sheet, that's tightening, right? And then you hike your rates on the front end, Fed funds, that's tightening. And this quantitatively was equal to, okay, almost 1.25% this balance sheet roll up. So that effectively gives you a bump up to 4.75. That's where we get this number, right? So it's jobs, right? We'll see how that goes. And you can see here that we are starting to break down here. I still have my hedges on. Obviously, I would have my hedges on. And we'll see how it plays out. Okay. Here's the 35-year. This is actually holding up pretty well. We'll see how that plays out. And here's a 10-year. Right? So we're at that knocking on heaven's door, 119.22. This, if we, breaks next leg down, 118.17, then this just could be a massive range, and this is why I started to put on my hedges, is because it didn't break out. And you can't, in anything, you can't assume. This is where the people really make big mistakes, is FOMO, right? They assume it's going to break out. They don't wait for confirmation for it to break out. That is notable, right? Okay. China, dollar. Okay, and you can see here the dollar starting to bounce, and I did buy a little bit of UUP. So not much. It's not even worth posting. It was such a small amount. Bitcoin. Commodities, sea of red. Okay. So why? There's now concern, obviously, in terms of interest rates, right? Can't ignore that. Just cannot ignore that, right? DBA still looks fine. DBC still looks fine. Natty gas rejection right here at the 38.2%. I still have my spread on. I might add a little bit to my KOLD. I don't know yet. USO, UNG. This is, I'm not sure we get further than this, because as you can see here, this one we did have a gap on the monthly. And then what happens is it catches up the next month, but not quite sure on that one. Crude pulling back. Okay, so reversion back to the mean. All right, so this is the 20, this is 21. I still have my SCO on. I still have my drip on. I did take a little profits on my SCO, but I might, if this breaks down, I'll buy some more SCO. Okay, that's how I'll trade it. All right. Okay. I don't know why this is here. OIH. So this also is struggling. MLPs, actually holding up okay. Gold crude, there we go. So even though gold is pulling back, crude is pulling back, crude is pulling back more than gold. And that's why I was telling with you, right, that I didn't know how that XLE USO spread would work. So that's why I told you I was in the SCO, because when you're doing a spread, you don't know which part's going to make you the money. So you got to be long XLE and short short USO, and I do that through SCO. Okay, all right, let's get going here. What do you got? Red, VIX is up, yada, yada, yada. FTSE's up a little bit. See, China, SI 300 is up a little bit, Singapore up a little bit. I mean, this is nothing. I mean, let's be honest, right? His DAX still holding up fine. FTSE looking to break out, but this is the tipping point's earnings, right? I mean, you can't get away from that. All right, so EFA, I actually think I'm going to start selling some of my EFA. I got in this and I shouted this out to everybody down here, right? I said, I want to put my money overseas. So this is how I played it, FAS, EFA. I do have some China stuff, and I do, and I'm hedged. So whatever. EFA, IWM, you can see here that the money rotation, this is fairly straightforward, right? On the outperformance. By NASDAQ, here we go. This is consolidation triangle. I mean, you can see that right there, right? Pennant, whatever you want to call it. In my day, this would be called a triangle, but in your day, I guess it's called a pennant. I don't know how this breaks out. Okay, we do have room down to here, right? And it's still fine as long. I would be concerned if we started to break down here below 12,881 FYI. All right, let's take a look. Qs, GFEN. This is really interesting. This is the French names, right? This is a multi-month consolidation pattern still, and there's no real. It's still a work in progress. Double top against the XBI, notable, right? But it could be flagging, but patience, right? Qs against Jets, multiple top here. Okay, so this is some of these red flags that I shout out to you. Here's Microsoft against the Qs, double top on Microsoft, quadruple top on Microsoft, right? Okay, so what does this tell us? That potentially Microsoft will lead this market down. That's what it tells us. QQQ Apple. Believe it or not, Apple's stronger against the Qs, right? Just like Microsoft was. And it looks like it's about to break down. So keep an eye on that too. So what does that mean? That Apple, Apple's dead money, so it's not going to go up or down a lot, right? So we'll see, right? Qs against Amazon. Really interesting, right? Look at that. I don't know where we go. So this is why, you know how I do this every so often, just to give you my thoughts, okay, on where we're going, okay? This is a big issue right now, okay? We're in the upper quadrant, right, on the Qs against Amazon. I would like to see Amazon take some leadership in a rally. I don't know. Qs against Meta. Now, this is really interesting, and this is at the 78.6% fib. Okay, and you know me and these fibs, right? It's also an extension point that goes back to here. This is 2015. Keep an eye on this one, okay? So if this happens, it could be like that, right? And that's bearish narrative, right? FANG against the NASDAQ, okay? FANG has been rallying, right? We got a double top in place, you know that. We are holding this pivot right here. We start breaking this pivot, we got to get concerned about what's going on. Okay, so that would be the targeted tech FANG plus is going to lead on the downside, and that would make sense. And it could be rotation. I don't know what's the catalyst, but we have to be aware of this. This is why I'm in XLV, okay? All right, reversion to the mean. Until we take out this high on this spread, reversion to the mean, and you can see it's pulling back, okay? This is a red flag. Here's QQQ against XOT. Now, obviously, QQQ looks good. It's just holding still, but keep an eye on that, right? QQQ against XLK. Okay, I don't know, but be aware of this. Okay. So if this starts to go up, this is XLK, right? Microsoft, Apple, top holdings. QQQ against XLC. Now this is really fun to look at. So we got this quadrant here. Look at this. Okay, a little bit below the mid. Okay, and you can see here the supports here. Right. So when I do my quadrants, you can see this. Right? Anyways, interesting. QQQ selling off against XLC. Well, you know what that is. That's Google and Meta, right? QQQ against XLY, double top. It's this extension. Okay, double top. No, I mean, that's notable, right? So this XLY is Tesla, Amazon, and we saw that Amazon is looking a little bit interesting there. QQQ against iPay, double top on QQQ. QQQ against XLP. It's in the up. It's trying to break this. It doesn't until it starts taking out the reversion to the mean. This is the top end of the quadrant, but flat. Dow against the Qs. Okay. Double bottom. This is a red flag, huge red flag, and you know why that is, right? Okay, so the Dow components. Healthcare is one of the largest components, right? UNH, you know that, right? Everybody knows that. Okay. So, anyways, Russell. Well, it bounced off this quadrant. You can see that, but it's probably now this quadrant. I think I have to go down there, right? And this is this right now. Okay. We're at the mid. So that doesn't give us any leeway. SPY against the Russell breaking out, still holding the breakout, notable. I still think in my head, I still think we get continuation of these low float small caps. I think that's supportive of the Russell, and the sell-off is not going to be as severe. But don't forget, the Russell has these banks, and a lot of these banks are, we'll see how it plays out, right? Some of these are selling off, some of them not. But like I say, I told you I was, on the regional side, I'm very familiar. I come from, regional banks. That's what was my my training ground. Okay, so I'm really well aware of some of these regional banks, and it was very, 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 very targeted. Okay, but Russell against this is what I'm talking about right now. I think we have a bottom here on this Russell against the NASDAQ. Okay, you can see that. But you know the drill, right? If this breaks, then it's basically the financials that are rolling over, right? Here we go. You can see. I mean, there's nothing here exciting unless you bought, down here. But even then, I mean, underperformance. Okay, double top and Q. So these are the futures, and then you can see each one has its different look to it. So we have a triple top here. So the drill here. This is where you take profits in the Qs, right? And have a little piece on, see what happens. So this is the TQQQT, and I actively trade this spread, okay? Consolidative, but the TQQ is starting to pull back a little bit on that one. TZA, okay, holding up fine. It has to pop this top, right? And that should make sense to you, right? Here's the futures, right? This is S&P. It's similar to, but it's actually a little bit more bullish, right? But we shall see how this plays out. Dow against the Russell. Now, this is what's really interesting to me. I actually think this holds up. We got a fantastic uptrend line. This is a 6-month. That's why I have this up here. I think this is interesting. And I think the Dow, and that's actually a red flag, right? Fang against the Russell, double top. These double tops are important, right? Because if it started, because of the extension that happened, this has a long way to go in a correction. Okay, so you're talking 15% potentially there. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm leaning more and more and more, okay, towards a bias of, and this is why I'm extending, broadening my exposure, okay? Because we have a setup potentially, okay, with with the Fang Plus, and we saw what happened with Netflix, that things can go sideways really quickly on this stuff. Okay? Just so you know. IWM against, that's China, who cares about that? XRT against IWM. So clearly the IWM has been as soft as the retail. I mean, as you can see, it's not going anywhere. I don't think there's a trade there. These are transports against, okay, the IWM, and this is into a double top extension, so we have to keep an eye on that. All right, so that would be FedEx, UPS, stuff like that. XLK, IWM. This is really interesting because I think this is a top, and I think we pull back down. So what does that tell me? So this is another red flag. I keep giving you these red flags. So when I have red flags like this, I start to, you know, add some exposure. Okay, it hedges on, right? So XLE IWM, really interesting. This will be this is obviously a multi-month setup, but I'm keeping an eye on this one, right? As I should be, right? To see what happens here. Okay, if this starts to break down, that means you can be short IWM and long XLE. So these are the things, right? Okay, this is what I'm, you know, working my way through. IWM XLP, watch this. This is not looking pretty good. There was a very minimal bounce on this. Okay, and it still hasn't broken this downtrend line. Once again, this is a red flag. The only reason why this works, right, is money going into consumer staples, right? And that would be a risk-off type trade, right? So we now have a setup in place that gives me a huge red flag. And this is the reality is when you get to the upper quadrant, double tops and stuff like that, until you actually break out, and that will be a catalyst, right? More than likely earnings, right? Then you basically have to, you know, you can't be aggressively long this market, I guess is the Reader's Digest version of what I'm trying to say. There are so many red flags here that have to be addressed, right? So XLY against IWM, which is kind of interesting because it hasn't even taken this out. And a lot of that is Tesla, right? I mean, I think Tesla is going to get punished big time if they really miss or they guide lower and they had the opportunity. This cutting of their pricing is ridiculous. Okay, I mean, I don't know what the hell they're trying to do. Okay, I really don't. And you know the drill. I think we're in that that narrative where if you don't guide lower ahead of earnings and you really miss, you're talking, you know, 10, 15% decline. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, that's what it looks like right now to me, right? IWM XLF. All right, well, there you go.
All right, Beth, I think I'm ready to pop on whenever here.
Okay.
All right, guys, morning. What's going on? Beth, thank you so much. Let me just pop up the screen share here and we'll get going. Give me one sec. Alrighty, so if you guys are joining us on the YouTube stream this morning, thanks for popping in. If you guys are new to chat, make sure to click on that Discord link that's emailed to you. You're going to pop into chat. It's going to look something a little bit like this. First area to go to, guys, when you do pop in, click on that new to chat information section, give it a read, and we'll go through all that information a little bit later once we do close down the YouTube stream. But let's talk about what we got going on today. So, click on the disclaimer section first when you guys do come in, and then click on that new to chat information section and give it a read from top to bottom. All right, pre-market tickers on watch. What do we got going on today, guys? A couple different things. So Tesla, Netflix, ISRG, CDW, LEGN, and then Wall. So Tesla gapping down to simply the market Netflix gapping down slightly on earnings. ISRG, Intuitive Surgical delivers best procedure growth in a decade. CDW, DW stock slips 11% after hours as preliminary Q1 sales come in below consensus. LEGN leaked study results show a CAR T from J&J providing big benefit with patients with multiple myeloma. And then last but not least, Wall, which is gapping up. Western Alliance deposits stabilize, profits beat, shares rise after hours. And, stocks gapping up nicely because of that. So let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two we're going to be looking at here, guys, give you that Tesla, going to be that Netflix. So I'll look at that in just a second. Just real quick. SPY obviously gapping down a little bit. And we are we are breaking that back below that downtrend on the daily that did break. So we just reclaim that downtrend level. It's going to be really interesting to see whether or not we continue to hold below that. If we do, then we can, continue to sell off, obviously. There's going to be quite a big range to the downside. If we can get back above it, then of course we have this little tiny range and we'll be trading with them to the upside. We see some more earnings, bigger names report. But anyways, let's kind of dive right in, guys. So Tesla, Netflix, first two names that we're going to be checking out today. Let's have a look. From a technical perspective, of course. So Tesla obviously gapping down a little bit here, guys. Let's take a look at that daily. So daily bear flagging right now. You're back below all EMA support. You just broke back below all of it after that 50 EMA rejection there. We're bearish looking chart actually in the short term. It's just the start of a bear flag. Pivot to the downside today, 180.04, in my opinion, level is able to be reclaimed 186.68 to 191.63. Unable to hold 174.74 to 170.36 on the downside. Going to be leaning bearish, looking for a continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold. That is Tesla. Let's take a look at Netflix. Uh, 326.23 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold. We got room towards 321.41. 311.06 able to hold. We've got room back towards 331. 77 to 337.30 on the upside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower if this pivot is unable to hold. Got a really nice bounce on it yesterday after the earnings. We actually were, I didn't realize how close we were to the bottom, guys, but we were like 50 cents off the low. So that was a pretty nice bottom tick after earnings came out, which is not easy to do. And we'll see whether or not we can get a little bit more range on this today, but decent rebound. We'll see whether or not it rolls over today. I'm going to be leaning for now bearish neutral on it if that pivot point is not able to hold. So that's Tesla, that's Netflix. It feels like Tesla, Netflix are going to be trading, or Netflix at least will be trading the sympathy with the market a little bit there. All right, let's take a look at the next two, ISRG and CDW. All right, so ISRG, guys, let's have a look. All right, ISRG. All right, ISRG 291.48 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold. We got towards 295.20 to 302.24, 304.24, I should say. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback into the 285.19 to 276.67 on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning bullish. We're looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point is able to hold. Let's take a look at the CDW. We got him down 171. Let's see where we got room to. $170.21 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold. 165.98 to 161.47. Able to hold. We look for a pushback towards 175.01 to 179.43 on the upside. Overall on CDW, going to be leaning on the bearish side today, looking for continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold. So that's ISRG. That is CDW. Let's take a look at LEGN and Wall. All right, that should be fine. Let's take a look at this on the fib side. All right, so 59.22 pivots to the upside today on LEGN. Levels able to hold. We got room at 61.17. 263.05 unable to hold. We look for pullback towards 57.68 to 56.28. Leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point is able to hold. Let's LEG. Let's take a look at wall. Okay. All right, wall guys. It's a nice little gap up there. Nothing crazy huge, but 37.70 is going to be a pivot to the upside today. Level holds 40.41, 42.64. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback towards 35.19 to 33.09 on the downside. Going to be leaning bullish. We're looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point can hold. All right, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG here, my friends. Quickly rip through those charts. Just going to screenshot that. And we shall move on. All right, so SPY and the FANG. Let's have a look. I'm just going to match this here so we can see the daily charts real quick as we rip through it as well. There we go. All right, 411.02 pivot to the downside today on the SPY, unable to hold 407.50 to 405.62, able to hold 416.06 to 419.09 on the upside. Overall on the SPY, actually going to be leaning more on the bullish neutral side today. I want to see a hold of that pivot and a push back to the upside. So we'll see what happens in that regard. You know, a lot of EMA support here, and you do have trend support as well in the short term. So thinking that those levels do hold. Of course, we'll see how it reacts out the gate, but that's what I'm thinking. I think if we were going to really break down, and we'd had a bigger gap down than this. We're kind of still within the range. That's SPY. Let's take a look at Apple. So Apple's still, you know, in that kind of range breakout area, but obviously rejected at the moment. 165.61 pivot to the downside today. Levels able to hold 166.81 to 168.20. Unable to hold 164.06 to 162.08 on the downside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for continuation lower if the pivot point is unable to hold. Let's take a look at Amazon. $101.22 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold on Amazon. Room towards 104.31. Unable to hold 97.10. Going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today if that pivot point is unable to hold. So we'll see what happens in that regard. That's Amazon. Let's take a look at Netflix. Oops. Netflix we did. Let's take a look at Meta. That's a little bit uglier looking, eh? So you're breaking EMA support, or you're testing it at the moment, I should say. Pivot to the downside today, 213.74. Level is unable to hold. We got room towards 209.13, able to hold 216.33 to 221.89 on the upside. Overall, going to be leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower to the downside if that pivot point is unable to hold. So that's Meta. Let's take a look at Google. $104.39 pivot to the downside today, unable to hold. 101.90 able to hold. Looking for a push back towards 106.55 to 108.10 on the upside. Overall on Meta, maybe leaning on the overall on Google, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a bounce. Here, let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, and IWM real quick. VIX. A little bit of a bounce off the lows. I think one of the main levels to be keeping an eye on is at 1703, guys. 17 going to be the pivot to the upside today. We'll hold 1771 to 1811. Unable to pull, we look for pullback to 1635. Massive double bottom on the daily. So keep an eye on that 17 level. It's going to be very important today for direction on the market. If that level holds up, market should stay weak. Let's take a look at the Qs. QQQ. Obviously still has a flag break set up on the daily, but we're pulling back slightly off of it. Pivot to the upside today, 316.85, unable to hold 311.92 to 307.27, able to hold 321.31, 323.94. Going to be leaning bearish neutral unless that pivot can be reclaimed. So that is the Qs. And last but not least, guys, let's take a look at SPX. All right, 41.54 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold. They got room towards 41.80. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback towards 41.23 to 40.99 on the downside. Leaning bullish, or sorry, leaning bearish neutral at the moment. Looking for a little bit of a pullback there. All right, let's take I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to South Beach, guys, while I type up that pre-market action plan. Then we'll do a quick little recap before the open there. So South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours for now, and I'll talk to you guys shortly. South Beach, go for it.
Hey guys. All right, a little bit of a buzzsaw this morning. Let's see why. Let's try to get to the bottom of this. Okay, so 10 years up, right? 362. All right, so climbing its way back from what, 330 last week, down from 4 and change. Bonds are up across the board. 6 month is now 510, just so you know. 3 month is 520. So lots of competition for equities in the bond market. Technicals are still pretty good for the market. No real change there. You know, SPYs look pretty good. Qs look pretty good. Qs are running into both are running into their 200-day moving average on the weekly chart. So that should provide some resistance. The S&P has stopped there 3 times. The Qs have stopped there right on the nose, actually, once, but we'll see. Okay, so we're nearing some resistance here, which is a little concerning. All right, looking across the other side of the pond, UK had kind of crappy inflation numbers. I think they were north of 10%, a little higher than expectations. And ex-food and energy up more than 5%. So they obviously have a big problem with food and energy, but it's not, obviously it's not their only problem. And rates are up there, okay? 10 years, 385, significantly higher than us now. Still no inversion to speak of. 2 years at 379, but a really flat curve. The highest rate is the 6 month at 472, FYI. Germany rates are higher, so pretty much higher rates across the board. A couple of inversions, us in Germany and what have you, but inflation is a little stubborn. Okay, so that's the bond market. Looking at commodities, I guess they're, went down through 80 on the crude. So I said if it went below 80, I'd get a little bearish, which I'm going to be. I think the recession fear is raising its ugly head, and that's causing oil to come in a little bit. Gas is down a dime, but that thing is in a bear market for now. Gold is down. So what does that mean? Obviously, dollar's going to be up, crypto's going to be down, because that's the only thing these two have traded on. Okay, copper's in a trading range, and the agricultural commodities. The only thing I read of interest was that rice production is like a multi-year low. Let's see what rice has done. Not really affecting the price, but it is very volatile, the price. If you looked at the chart, it's like spike up, spike down, spike up, spike down. So a lot of volatility there. You don't want to see that. Lumber is everything else is kind of in small trading ranges for the most part. Currency wise, of course, we saw gold. So dollars up, North America, dollars up against the yen, dollars up against the Chinese currency back to almost 690, up against the euro, and flat against the pound. Okay, and crypto down 1,100, 4%, of course. Ethereum down 5%, Solana down 7%. So a little bit of a hit there. And foreign markets hanging in pretty well, actually. FTSE's barely down 0.24, and they're the ones that have the inflation issue, right? The DAX is down 0.16, immaterial kind of move there. Over in Asia, same kind of thing. Nikkei barely, basically flat. China flat. Hong Kong was down 1%. Okay, so the outside move seems to be us for the moment, and it's nothing awful anyway. All right, so we have the banks and the Fed. Let's see. The big comment of the day is this James Bullard, who is the hawk of hawks, right? He's leading the charge. No recession that I can see. Fed must stay the course and fight inflation. The US is getting their recession call wrong. Employment is still high. Consumer spending is still high. So you know what he's saying in the meeting, right? He's saying you got to raise and you got to keep raising until we kill this beast, right? A lot of other guys like Professor Siegel, who's not talking his book, Barry Sternlicht, who is talking his book, and a lot of other people think the Fed needs to wait and to see the effects of all this stuff. I'm kind of in the camp of those guys. I think this Fed has been wrong since day one. And I think they're run by a bunch of knuckleheads, and I wish they would shut the hell up and talk as one unit. But what I want doesn't really make a hell of beans, mean a hell of beans. Okay, so anyway, that's Bullard. And so when you look at the percentage, zero rate change right now, the betting is 15%, a quarter of a point is 85%. So with the inflation numbers coming out of the UK, I would imagine that 25 basis points is really the most likely outcome, but what's going to matter is what he says afterwards, not the number, I think. So that's the banks and the Fed. China, we'll talk about in a moment, as we will. Russia, crypto, we talked about. It's a dollar play, period, end of story. Okay, that's what it is. Mr. Market yesterday was probably the most boring day of the year. I probably traded the least amount of stock on the year. I was very inactive. Those kinds of days, I usually get chopped up a little bit. I ended up breaking even, I think maybe even making a couple of pennies. DAX was down, the Dow was down 143, S&P was basically flat, NASDAQ was basically flat, and the only outstanding moves were in HMOs, on the short side, and utilities. Okay, that was really in a nutshell. There wasn't much to do, and that was that. Okay, what's working? Well, we've had a lot of linear moves, that's for sure. And these little stocks, I think they're becoming a little long in the tooth because there's too many of them. And when that happens, making money on them becomes a lot more difficult. So I'm going to stay away from these names until the numbers get a little lower. I mean, yesterday there had to be, I don't know, as a guess, 30 names that you could have bought and sold based upon, volume coming into them, extraordinary volume, them trying to whip it, whatever. And I would imagine if you played them, you probably made a donation. Okay, so when I see that many, it usually signals a change of direction of the market a lot of times, and I don't want to play the game. So when you see 2 or 3 in a day, you can get a lot of linear moves. When you have 30 or 40, it's the guys who get in early who make the money and get out early. The guys who spot it, when you spot it, you're probably late and you're probably going to make a donation. So just experience speaking. You can listen to me if you'd like, and you can tell me to piss off if that's what you choose. I don't really care either way. Meta and Disney slashing more jobs. I think this Meta has really, I mean, they're going to slash. They keep cutting payrolls. They like what they're seeing. They like the stock action. And I mean, once you get a taste of blood, I guess you want to keep doing it. So they're laying off another 4,000 people. Disney is going to lay off, they said they were going to lay off a bunch. What they say, like, I don't know. They have 220,000 employees. I think they're going to lay off 7,000. They're laying off 15% of their entertainment division. But even if they laid off 20,000, it's only 10%, and it doesn't sound like a lot unless you're one of the 10%, in which case it's a disaster. And that's that, right? Fox, as no surprise there, they settled, right? $787 million. So they must have thought they were going to lose, or they had an insurance coverage for X amount and they didn't want to go over that. That's oftentimes the case. So they didn't say either way, but that's not a little bit of money. Maybe these news agencies should stop making up shit. Okay. I mean, it's really, I wish they would report the news. If I had my druthers, I'd blow Fox and CNN off the TV and just have guys who report the news like the old days instead of their slant, which is annoying. Japanese bank Sumitomo Mitsui issued those AT1 bank debt, $1 billion worth. So those are that's what went bad at Credit Suisse. These are like less senior debt with a greater interest rate, but I guess even though they had the wipeout at Credit Suisse, people are comfortable. I told you that the companies wanted to pay that debt. The government would not allow it, Swiss government. So I just know that because I had a friend in the meeting and he told me. Anyway, what else? Russia, they're concerned, according to Bloomberg, about being too reliant on China. Be careful who you get into bed with, I should say, for either one of those guys, quite frankly. I think they deserve each other. NATO, Finland joined in on their first war exercises with NATO. So they're kind of in the fold now. We'll see how that works out. Tesla is cutting prices again. So this Model Y was $3,000 and the Model 3 is $2,000. So they keep cutting prices. And now there's a little bit of earnings and margin concerns going forward. So that's Tesla's down a little bit today on that. The banks are moving from Britain, London, and it looks like Paris is going to be the new financial headquarters of Europe. Not a bad place to live. I could think of worse. Which GOP donors are very concerned with the Trump alternative? DeSantis has everybody worried. DeSantis has gotten very right-wing, I would say, in the last couple of months. You had the abortion situation, the abortion pill, right? You had his comments on Ukraine. You had his feud with Disney. And I, for one, want to see a moderate candidate. And I'm a little concerned on this verbiage lately, to be quite frank with you. And I think if he goes in hard line, he has a chance to lose to Biden. If he comes in moderate, Biden will get destroyed. So I don't know if these guys got the message, but whatever. AWA had a glitch in their computer. They were selling first-class tickets or business class tickets to Asia from the US for $300. Kim Kardashian is expanding her PE firm. They're hiring a bunch of more people from Apollo. They started with a Carlyle co-founder, and I guess she's got a lot of money in that fund because all these guys wouldn't be running there. US mortgage rates went up the most in 2 months last month. Now the average for 30-year mortgage is 643. That could put a little damper on homes, but we'll see. India passed China as the most populous country, says the UN. Mike Wilson doesn't believe the rally still. He thinks that earnings are going to be crappy and growth is going to be soft. And so he's sticking with his we'll go in lower narrative. Okay. Let's see, people concerned about this US budget deficit, bill that they're trying to pass so we can get past this monster. I've seen this now, I don't know. The first time was maybe a decade, maybe more than that, and it happens all the time. They'll do an 11th hour thing like they always do. And right now they're sticking to their guns, but they won't. Okay. Yeah, he wanted to put a prison next to Disney. First of all, Disney's stupid to fight with him. And second of all, what he's saying is ridiculous. So it's like they both sound silly. Anyway, but Disney does not have the upper hand here, that's for sure. Even though they have a huge investment and they should play nice to some extent, but we'll see how nasty this thing gets. Okay. Netflix is still going to put down this password sharing crackdown in the next quarter. And they see a stronger Q2 second half because of it. We'll see how that goes. And the Morgan Stanley CEO says we are not in a banking crisis. And after looking at the numbers today, I would tend to agree with him. Okay, so let's look at earnings today and we'll transition into that in a minute. On the good side, we had this Baker Hughes was decent, but I think it's still up. It might be the only oil stock up. Yeah, it's up minimally 40 cents. NASDAQ numbers were good. Travelers hit the cover off the ball, guys, TRV. And a couple of banks did really nicely. Okay, we had US Bancorp was good. We had WAL. Now, I commented on that yesterday. I said, someone really must know the earnings in WAL or believe in this thing a great deal. And sure enough, someone either guessed right or knew. NVT was good. ISRG was good. ISRIG, I love that stock. FHN. PCVX was good. Abbott Labs had a very good number, as did Zion. So a bunch of banks did pretty well. Okay. On the name, what else? CJJD, that was that disaster du jour. Be careful on these Chinese secondaries, guys. They did this secondary yesterday at a discount at like $3. Okay. And it went down to what, 60 cents? So be very careful in these things, okay? It closed at like 4 and change. They did the secondary at 3 and change, and it went down to 60 cents. I'll just hit the names that were negative and I'll stop there because there's a lot more stuff and I'm out of time. But negative numbers with CFG, that's in a little bit. Okay, UAL, ELV, CDW, Volt, IBKR, Synchrony Financial, ASML is significant, guys. They missed. Morgan Stanley is significant. The number wasn't bad, but they're taking the stock down. So obviously they don't like what they said. And Ally Bank was a little soft also. Okay. Other than that, you probably read most of the stuff. So I'm going to pass it to Spartan and see if we can get a bounce here today. I'll wait to see a theme. I think the banks will probably be okay. I think if the market stays soft, which I'm kind of think it will because of ASML's earnings, I think you gravitate towards drugs, consumer non-durables, and utilities. So that's where I'm at. The rest of the stuff, the high PE tech stuff on higher interest rates, and this ASML news should be on the softer side. Okay, that's it for me. Spartan, it's all yours.
Alrighty, thank you, South Beach guys. Morning, what's going on? So if you guys are new to chat, have already done so, make sure to click on that Discord link that's emailed to you. You're gonna pop in a chat. It's gonna look something a little bit like this. First area to go to when you guys do come in, click on that disclaimer section, give it a read, as well as go to the new to chat information section, scroll to the very, very top. Top of the section, you got a link to the disclaimer as well as this bolded risk reward section. Now, risk reward, guys, most important ratio in trading. I would certainly go through this section first before doing anything from a trading standpoint, just because this breaks down how to control risk. You got risk reward profiles on top you can use to match your account size as well as your risk reward threshold. You got video explaining how that works, as well as a risk reward calculator you can download and use that tool, and the video explaining how that risk reward calculator works. So you can calculate risk reward on the go very quickly. Continue to scroll down. We have summary of how this chat works, breaks down all these channels work on the left-hand side, so you can probably navigate the chat throughout the day. Important to know where to be looking. Continue to scroll down. We have how to read alerts on the options and equity side, breaking down how to read alerts on both sides. Below that, options rules that we like to use Monday to Thursday in regards to controlling risk, scaling in, scaling out, trading different price contracts, et cetera, for the options ideas, as well as the SPX rules that we use every single day for the SPX section right below that. Continue to scroll down. We have any of the small account less than 10K, breaking down if you have a smaller account less than 10K. Here's some rules, information, discipline you can put in place to give a better chance of growing that smaller account, in our opinion. And lastly, how to pick ideas from an options or equity perspective by overlaying your own criteria on top of the ideas, so you're left with only things that do make sense for you and your account. All right, pre-market tickers on watch. What do we got going on today, guys? A couple different things. If you guys are watching the YouTube stream, you can just simply pause it and read the pre-market action plan. There you go, right there, and then right there. And of course, we have all the charts posted for everything that we looked at this morning. So what are we looking at today? Tesla, Netflix, ISRG, CDW, LEGN, and Wall. So Tesla gapping down to simply the market. Netflix gapping down to slightly on earnings. ISRG, Intuitive Surgical, delivers best procedure growth in decade. Gapping up on that. CDW, DW stock slips 11% after hours as preliminary Q1 sales coming below consensus. LEGN leaked steady results show a CAR T from its J&J providing a big benefit for patients with multiple melanoma. I don't know. Wall Western Alliance deposit stabilized, profit beats, share rise after hours, gapping up on that. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint today. First two we're looking at today is maybe that Tesla and going to be that Netflix. Let's have a look at those. What's happening here? Not sure if you guys can hear me. You guys hear the internet center back up. We're good. Yeah. One thing I'm gonna have to do is I think this platform is gonna just shut down. So I'm just gonna pop it up on the actual screenshot that it's out. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. This works. I knew it was gonna crap out there. That's all right. I'll reload that up in just a second, but we can rip through it on this anyways, because we're just looking at the levels I was talking about this morning. So Tesla 180.04 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold 174.74 to 170.36, able to hold 186.68 to 191.63 on the upside. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning bearish, continuation lower today. Netflix 326.23 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold 321.41 to 311.06, able to hold 331.77 to 337.30 on the upside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leaning bullish, neutral for hold of the pivot and a push back to the upside. ISRG 291.48 pivot, level holds 295.20, 304.24, unable to hold 285.19, 276.67 downside, leaning bullish, neutral there. CDW pivot 170.21 to the downside, unable to hold 165.98, 161.47, able to hold 175.01 to 179.43 on the upside. Overall on that, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side there. LEGN 59.22 pivot, level hold 61.17 to 63.05, unable to hold 56 or 57.68 to 56.28 on the downside. Overall leaning bullish neutral there. Wall pivots 37.70, level holds 40.41 to 42.64, unable to hold. We look for a pullback into the, I got this back up. There we go. I'm just going to click on this. So 37.70 pivot, level holds 40.41 to 42.64, unable to hold 35.19 to 33.09. And I'm leaning bullish neutral on that wall as well, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. So SPY pivot 411.02, levels able to hold. We got room back towards 416.06 to 419.09, unable to hold 407.50 to 405.62, leaning bullish neutral on, leaning bearish neutral on that name, unless the pivot point can hold today. Bullish neutral on that name, if the pivot point can hold today. Apple 165.61 pivot, level holds 166.81 to 168.20, unable to hold 164.06 to 162.08, leaning on the bullish neutral there. Amazon 101.22 pivot, level holds 104.31 to 108.14, unable to hold 97.10 to 94.05, leaning on the bearish neutral side there. Let's take a look at Meta pivot downside 213.74, unable to hold 209.13, able to hold 216.33 to 221.89 on the upside, leaning on the bearish neutral side there. Google pivot 104.36, unable to hold 101.90, able to hold 106.55 to 108.10 on the upside, leaning on the bullish neutral side there if the pivot point can be reclaimed. VIX pivot $17, able to hold 17.71 to 18.11, unable to hold 16.35 downside. Not leaning any particular direction there. QQQs 316.85 pivot to the downside today, unable to hold 311.92 to 307.27, able to hold 321.31 to 323.94 on the upside. Going to be leading bearish neutral on that name if the pivot can't be reclaimed. Then last but not least, guys, it was SVX 41.54.40 pivot, unable to hold 41.23, which is where it's at right now. 40.99, able to hold 41.80. Going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a hold of the low and support and a push back towards that pivot point on the upside. So that's the SPY. That's the thing. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today. We'll see what happens. Should be an interesting one. We're going to go ahead and close down that YouTube stream here, guys. Thanks for joining us this morning. We do this every single Wednesday, and you can pop into chat if you'd like. So go to SpartanTrading.com and you can sign up there.